Welcome to Forensic Friday.
Where we examine the intersection of true crime, psychology, and the heart of being human in the middle of it all. We already apologized to Garrett because our voices suck. Sorry. But we're on a tight production schedule. I mean,
Y'all.
I am making it happen. Because baby.
Yeah.
So we have to bust it out.
I mean, I made tonight happen. You were ready to call it a night.
Oh, I was. I know. But because you're leading, I think we'll be fine.
We'll do our best.
I know.
We'll do the best we can. So here we are.
Yeah, we just have a little bit of a cold. I have a little bit of a cold, I think. And
I
the
think
bummer,
I do now. I don't know what I have.
you might have a little bit of a cold. I don't know.
Ugh.
Mac had one. He goes, I have strep. And every time he says
He gets strep all the time.
he does, but I did as a kid until I got my tonsils out.
Oh, you did? I never got or get strep.
Oh my gosh, I don't get it now, but I used to
I
get it
could
all the
knock
time.
on wood just now.
Well, it's going to be like negative 25 degrees this weekend. Are you ready for that?
Yeah. I was telling clients that I saw earlier that I used to live in Gunnison. And it's like an ice box of Colorado.
Oh, is it really cold there?
Oh, it gets to it gets like 30 below.
Why is that? Is it in like a valley or something?
Yeah, it's in a valley. And there's like a bunch of 13ers around it. So it's like, yeah, it's down in
The air gets trapped, probably, huh?
yeah, and it gets cold. It's so cold. So we'll see. I also really wanted to go to the rodeo with Preston tomorrow night, but tickets are super expensive. So we're gonna figure something else out.
I know. I thought about going too, but Gare's mom's up in Cheyenne and they have the big rodeo up in Cheyenne every year.
That's fun. Yeah,
And
well,
you
I
can
love that
actually
one.
go. You can go for a pretty affordable up in Wyoming.
Oh,
But
I
the
know.
stock show one is nuts.
Well, yeah, the stock show one's nuts. And I love going. We go to concerts in Cheyenne like every year at Cheyenne Frontier Days.
Oh yeah, it's really great. I didn't know what it was. And it's a joke between me and my mother-in-law now that it's not my first rodeo. We got matching keychains because she took me to my first rodeo up there, and I thought I was gonna hate it, and then I was here for it. Like the bull riding, all of it. I was just living my best life, and it was very unexpected.
I know. It's actually really fun to go to.
It's really fun. Well, you're kind of a country girly. You like
Mm-hmm.
country music and stuff. I'm like, 50-50. I hit or
Like
miss with the
mid.
country. Yeah,
Yeah.
mid. We're too old to say mid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Your face. You said it and you're like, Janine's for sure too old for this, but I might be able to make it work.
I don't think I can make it work. I tried.
So you got a surprise for me. I don't even have notes.
Yeah, so I was gonna say fun one. It's not that fun. It's kind of sad, but
Aren't they all sad?
I know they are all kind of
People
sad. But
getting
some of them,
murdered and stuff.
some of them we have like, well, because we have to have a twisted sense of humor with the jobs we do.
Well, Steve.
Oh, I can't stand Steve. We hate Steve.
Steve was only fun because we got to make fun of Steve.
Yes.
So this is a sad one. Am I going to be real sad?
It's a sad one. We'll see. So this one actually gets at, it's not necessarily a murder case.
Okay.
But it involves different types of crime, a couple, just yeah, just different types of crime. I was like, how many types of crime?
All the crime.
Just a few. So this one gets at, I want to be careful because of how I say certain things because of how tender this case is.
Okay.
So this is really about mental health and veterans.
Okay.
And
So kind of a softer one.
oh yeah, this is a soft one, but it's real sad. Mental health and veterans, and then also the VA and how the VA system works.
Okay.
I'm actually not going to go into a ton of information about how the system works because, to be honest, there's a lot of opinions out there, and it's hard to narrow that down. But I'm going to specifically talk about this one individual's experience, and then you and I can kind of talk through what we've heard because we have and do work with vets.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of pros and cons to any system, and unfortunately, this situation pointed out some of the potential cons of, not just the VA system, but just like the transition for vets from when they come from, Iraq or wherever they are to civilian life.
And I think everyone can agree our veterans deserve the best. How that gets delivered is, complicated.
Yeah. This is gonna be a real struggle with my voice.
I know. I'm just holding my tea, like, go with it, Nat. I'm
Go
only
with God.
squeaky.
We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So have you seen the movie Breaking? It's with an actor named John Boyega.
No.
Boyega. I never heard of him, but he's a good actor.
Okay.
So the movie Breaking is based on a true story of a man named Brian Brown-Easley.
Okay.
Okay, and at the time of his death, he was 33 years old.
Okay.
Okay. He felt very, very wronged by the VA and was at this point, and I'll get into all the details, super desperate in his life. Okay. So Brian was a Marine he was in the Marines as a supply clerk serving in Kuwait and Iraq.
Okay.
Okay. So Brian was in the Marines as a supply clerk serving in Kuwait and Iraq. So in 2005, he served as a warehouse clerk working up to 17 hours a day to fill supply orders for Marine combat units functioning through the Al Anbar province.
Okay.
So he was not front lines, but he told WSB TV at one point that he had a close call during security detail. It was stated by another Marine that mortar fire was a regular occurrence at the base, which would cause them to hurry to their bunkers. So it was kind of like, does that make sense?
That is that's scary when you're
It's
staying
super
somewhere and
scary.
you're hearing explosions and stuff. That's scary.
Yes. I mean, you're still in your fight or flight part of your brain.
Sure.
So he spent 4 years in the military, Brian did, and was honorably discharged in 2005. He came home to his mother's house in Jefferson, Georgia, where he began to experience a lot of back problems that he states was from his military experience, which makes sense. You work in a warehouse and
yeah, for sure. Especially 17 hours a day in a warehouse.
Yeah, on your feet and all that. There were also significant mental health issues. It wasn't really clear if the mental health experiences he was having was present before the military, but it was magnified after.
So he may have had something going in or a predisposition going in.
Yeah.
Okay.
My guess is predisposition because they don't really let a lot of people into the military if there's significant mental health stuff, which we'll get into.
Yeah, okay.
Any thoughts so far?
No, just 17 hours. I'm like, they don't have labor laws? Like, what are we doing? But yeah, no.
What are we doing?
I mean, you and I work 12, so I mean, I guess,
Dude, my Monday coming up, I'm working from 9 to 8:30.
Yeah. That's like the good old days, Nat.
It is like the good old days. I was like, what am I doing with my life?
12-hour Monday. We're just right back to where we were in 2017.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's all good. Oh my gosh. Okay. So when he returned, he had been heavily relying on his disability check from the VA to survive. at one point, and we're going to get to this, okay?
Okay.
At one point, his check stopped coming in, and he was repeatedly, this is in quotes, repeatedly turned away by the regional VA benefits office and the Veterans Crisis Line.
So he'd been calling
Yes.
and he wasn't getting what he needed?
To figure out why his payment stopped, all that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that'd be super disruptive if all of a sudden the money just stopped showing up.
Yes. So the other hard part of all this, obviously, like if it's not hard enough that your, financial security stops coming in, is that he had a daughter named Jayla and an ex-wife named Jessica, who he still really, really loved, and he was trying to get his life back together mainly for his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it wasn't clear in like the articles that I read that he wanted to get back together with his ex-wife, but I do in the movie it talks about how, he was like, I'll never get married again because that was my one true love, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So at this guy's core, you'll start to learn super sweet guy, lots of issues, right?
Yeah.
That just never got addressed.
Yeah.
So he met Jessica, his ex-wife, after his time in the military when he came back and they were working at Walmart. They quickly got married and had their daughter. Well, as we both know, he was experiencing significant mental health stuff after the military. So their marriage was strained and did not last long, as he would disappear for long periods of time and his symptoms would just continue to get worse. So he was like, I don't think he was really taking medications. He was in and out of like different homes, relatives' homes, nonprofits' homes, VA mental health hospital, but I don't think was ever consistent with any type, any doctor or anything like that.
And why would he get hospitalized? Like psychosis, depression? What was it?
So it doesn't say it, we get to it a little later, but just,
Okay.
Mainly like psychotic stuff, like mental health breaks, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were times, so like I said, he would bounce around places. At times he would sleep in his car, all that kind of stuff. And then he was also trying to use his disability money for child support,
Okay.
which gets a little dicey,
Hmm.
right? Because he couldn't and it was hard. Like when he first got out of the military, he could hold down some jobs like for a little bit longer. But as you and I
Yeah.
both know, as mental health symptoms get worse, it's harder for individuals like that to hold a job down.
For sure. Yeah.
A lot of agitation and like you said, maybe some psychosis. So it's just hard. It gets harder the longer that goes unmanaged, right?
Yeah.
So the thing that brings us here today,
Okay.
on July 7th, 2017, Brian went into a Wells Fargo in Marietta, Georgia, and held them up.
Oh, geez.
Demanding for the VA to pay him what he believed the VA owed him.
So he held up the bank, but he wasn't trying to take money from the bank. He wanted money from the VA.
Correct.
So it was kind of a hostage situation.
Yes.
And he had a gun.
No.
He didn't.
He goes to the teller and he slides a note across the counter that says, I have a bomb.
Oh, okay.
Okay. He said, I have a bomb that contains C4 explosive. Okay. He calls 911.
He does?
He does.
Oh.
And WSVTV, which is a local news channel.
Okay.
Okay. So as he's like kind of getting all this together, he also lets every person out of the bank besides two people who worked there, two women.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he lets all the customers go.
Yep.
Everybody but these two like tellers, these two
Yeah.
people who work there. Okay.
Yep. I believe one of them was for sure a manager. The other one was a teller, but I also think some form of management.
Wow. Okay. And he doesn't have a gun. So he just
No.
passed the note. So did he just told the people to leave, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, so like he basically was like, everyone can leave besides these two people.
Okay.
And he has a backpack on, so it's not like he's holding a bomb. He's not holding anything in his hands.
Wow.
Yep. So he calls 911 and the local news because he wanted everyone to hear his story. So the motivation wasn't really just to get money. It was really so he could feel heard,
Mm.
right? He said to the news anchor, I'm going to be out on the streets tomorrow. I have a hotel room tonight, and tomorrow I have nothing. I'm going to be out on the streets, homeless, no food, no nothing. I don't have any money left, not to survive the rest of tomorrow.
Mm.
So he says that on the phone
Okay.
to the news. Okay. Here's the thing. Everyone's cooperating with him. Besides the VA, let me point that out. And it's not that the VA wasn't cooperating, but it's not like they handed over money, which we'll get into. But he's talking to these people on the phone, the news people. Everyone is like, he was so respectful. He was so nice. He was even answering calls, like Wells Fargo calls of other customers. And he would say, the bank is going through, what did he say? Like an emergency right now. Can they call you back? And he would like take messages.
That's kind of precious.
I know. No, this guy's like, the story is just insane. And that's why it's super sad. So he was very kind to everybody. Like everyone he engaged with, he would get agitated here and then, and start yelling and get really aggressive. But it wasn't like towards the women that he was holding hostage, nothing. And he would end up apologizing to them when he would get agitated with other people on the phone. Because he was, people would call, negotiate, different types of negotiators. We get to like one specific negotiator here in a little bit.
Okay.
But, people would call and he'd get real agitated and then he would apologize to them and say, whatever.
So he was trying to not scare these women.
Yes.
Hmm.
He also told them, he said, I will not blow up the bank with you guys in it, basically. He said, I will let you go before I do anything. But for him, he didn't want everyone else to know that because he wanted to get his needs met.
Right. Well, yeah. And if they knew that he wasn't going to hurt these two women, then their motivation to work with him goes down to nothing.
Right. They're going to bust in and get him,
Exactly.
So, yeah. And what was crazy is like, customers had left piles of money on the counters. He didn't take anyone's money.
Hmm.
And really, Janine, guess how much money he needed or that he was asking for?
Oh, I'm sure it's pretty small. At 10,000, something like that.
Less.
5.
Less.
1.
Yeah, $892.
Oh my gosh.
That's all he wanted. He wanted the VA to pay him what he believed they owed him for that month.
Mm.
I know. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about kind of some of the ironies of him not being able to get through to the VA on the phone and then taking the Wells Fargo calls.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I mean, he worked harder for Wells Fargo potentially than somebody worked for him.
Oh, 100%.
Which that's upsetting,
It is upsetting. Yeah.
But I mean, he sounds like he has some pretty strong core values around not having a negative impact on other people as much as possible. Like he didn't want to hurt any civilians, anybody, and I think that tracks with a lot of our service members who are trying to keep people safe overall,
Yeah. Well, I mean, shoot, he like goes, overseas and even though he's not front lines, he's still risking his life by being in the military, and they come back and that's the hard part with the transition is like they get lost in the cracks of transition and systems.
When you and I know when we try to call you making an insurance call is a whole thing. So
I can't.
The idea that he was having a hard time with significant mental health issues, it's a real challenge. Those situations are a challenge to people who don't have major
Mhm.
mental health issues going on. If you have any of a number of diagnoses, I mean, your distress tolerance is not great.
Well, and here's the thing. You and I have mildly worked with TriWest,
Mm-hmm.
which is a VA type of insurance,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
I have to be very mindful of when I call them because it's very frustrating.
Oh, it's so irritating.
You're on hold forever.
Yes.
I mean,
What they
and
require of the provider. And they
it's
used
insane.
to not work with outside providers until they figured out we don't
Mhm.
have enough internal providers because we're a
Mhm.
shit show. And so
Yeah,
they let external providers, but they make it so hard with the paperwork.
I know. I was going to tell you when I was doing my homework on this case, Medicaid, they make Medicaid look like a walk in the park,
Oh, for sure. They're harder
which
than
is
Medicaid.
crazy. Because if any of our friends who are also counselors or social workers and,
Yep.
work with Medicaid, y'all, Medicaid is easier than VA systems. So this is part of the problem, right? Is like a lot of times clinicians or providers of any sort don't really want to work with the VA because the VA system's hard.
Right.
And that's just the providers, right? And then you
Right.
add in the individuals who actually have those benefits and they're like, I don't know what to do. They won't answer
Yeah.
my calls either, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I will say I skipped this a little bit. At one point when he was trying to like figure out the VA stuff, he showed up in person and ended up getting arrested, but not necessarily. He got put in handcuffs until he calmed down because he like got all pissed off and agitated about
So,
this whole
and this was
thing.
a different time.
This was a different time. Sorry, this was
Okay.
pre. I skipped that. I
Okay.
didn't write a ton of that down because it was a really short thing, but it was in the time frame of him trying to figure out where his money's
Mhm.
going and how he's going to survive,
For sure.
right? So he needed a total, y'all, I already said this, of $892.
Oh,
That's it.
so small, like in the grand
So
scheme.
small. Yes. And in the movie, and I don't know if this actually happened in real life, but I believe that it probably did, to be honest with you. In the movie, the teller, like the women who worked at the bank were like, "Can we just give you the money?" Like, and he was like, "No, it's the principal. You don't owe me money. Wells Fargo doesn't owe me money. The VA owes me money."
Mm. So his point was not that he needed the money. The point was the VA will not pay me my money, has not paid me my money.
It was both. He needed it because he was
Mhm.
literally out of money.
Yeah, but he knows he's going to get arrested. So it's like they can give him the $900. He's going to spend a couple weeks in jail at least,
Or
right?
more. I mean,
Or
probably
more.
more. Yeah. For holding
So,
up
I
the
mean,
bank.
but for him though, too, if he was going to be homeless, I can see someone making this choice. It's like, I'm not
Mhm.
going to have a pot to piss in anyway, so I might as well
Yeah.
try to get my
Yeah.
money and make a point at the same time.
Exactly. So part of this, potentially, this is what his ex-wife Jessica said. It was reported that Brian wanted to surprise his daughter with a puppy.
Mm,
I know. I know. Jessica, his ex-wife, believed that when his payments from the VA did not come through, he realized he would not be able to keep what he had signed up for, basically, and surprise his little girl. And that was like devastating for him.
so he wasn't able to get this puppy that he'd picked out because he didn't get the payment.
Yes, and surprise her. But they, in the movie, they had like talked about, getting her a puppy at some point.
Mm,
And so she was all excited that it was going to potentially come soon. And so I think the devastation from what his ex-wife says
mm.
was just a lot for him and like got him to his breaking point.
Ugh.
So naturally, we ask a lot of questions. What are some questions you have so far about Brian or the situation? If I don't know, I don't know, but
I am definitely curious about his underlying mental health.
okay, we're gonna get to
Yep.
that.
I'm really curious about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about a little bit about his upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have much on that, but I'm curious about that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I find the bomb part I mean, he took a significant risk
Mm-hmm.
going into a bank without a gun, without, it's not like he's holding a detonator. So, like,
Mm-mm.
from a law enforcement perspective, he
Mm-hmm.
has two hostages, and it wouldn't take a lot for them to subdue him, quite frankly. Like, a good
Right.
SWAT team can, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, in the movie, it shows that he has some level, like some sort of remote control that has like a red button. I don't
oh,
know, or a red light. I don't know if that's the case in real life.
oh, okay. So he might have had something in his hand.
Yeah, he might have
Okay.
had something to insinuate that he had a bomb,
Yeah,
but it's not clear if he did or not, to be honest with you.
totally.
So, so unfortunately, I don't have a lot on his family, but I do have some of his mental health stuff.
Mm,
So he was in fact diagnosed with PTSD,
okay.
paranoia, and schizophrenia,
Hmm.
which I was like, is it paranoid schizophrenia that he had? But the
Mm.
way that his documentation wrote it, or what was written in his documentation, was PTSD, paranoia, and schizophrenia.
Okay. Well, here's what's kind of funny about that.
Hmm.
We have a problem already.
Yes,
That's
go
not a
for it.
diagnosis. And
No, I know.
I've gotten files from the VA, and again, there are good providers at the VA. We're not making a blanket statement about the VA, but the
No,
reputation that the VA has
isn't
in
great.
terms of behavioral health care is not great.
No, mental
And
health
I
and
have
behavioral health.
gotten,
Yep.
yeah, and I have gotten records from the VA where I'm like, what were they smoking when they wrote this? Like, that's
I
not even a
know.
real thing. And these are
Paran
psychologists sometimes making these diagnoses.
Oh, I know. Yeah, paranoia and schizophrenia.
No one knows.
Okay.
Okay.
So here we are. So that was what his documentation said.
Okay.
Okay. Uh when he called the news station, and this became evident like kind of to the world, or like not the world, but to the news
Mhm.
people and people who were watching all this go down, because he did say to them that he was being followed and targeted for kidnapping attempts, and he did he didn't go into details but said he had a near abduction that was by a secret society and his half brother Calvin.
There it is.
Yes.
Well, at a minimum, paranoia, but you and I know there's paranoid personality disorder. There's eight
Mhm.
different kinds of schizophrenia. I mean, there's not, eight,
Literally.
but I'm exaggerating.
No, yeah,
But
but
this could have been several things within what they had on
yes.
file. But
Yes.
there's the paranoia, the
Yes.
clinical paranoia.
Exactly. So, like I said, we don't know about his mental health really before he went into the military, but it was noted that he was a quieter individual, more introverted, very, friends, but not as many.
Yeah.
But he found from what he had said prior, in between some of his episodes, if you will, he would say that he found like brotherhood in the military, which you and I hear all the time, right? Like that they
Right.
find brotherhood, they find really solid friendships in the military. And then when they come out, if you don't keep those going, if they're not around you, it's hard to stay caught up. And so he came out and he was even more alone than when he went in.
Well, and one thing that's interesting is, like, most people are diagnosed with schizophrenia in
Mm-hmm.
early adulthood, late
Mm-hmm.
adolescence, early adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Some people to their early 30s, but that's pretty rare. It's extraordinarily rare for it to be before 12 or after 40.
Right.
So it's possible he had a little bit of a later onset schizophrenia, but I would be wondering if
Yeah.
this quiet kid maybe had some of that going in, and then
Yeah.
you put him on a military base and there's mortar fire and you know,
Yep.
There could have
Oh,
been a
for
lot going
sure.
on in his brain that whole
For
time.
sure. For sure. So absolutely, right? Like we don't know what was going on, but if we had to kind of speculate, like you said, or schizophrenia is earlier onset for men, right? 20s is the typical age. He's a little bit older, and none of these, from what people said, symptoms came out until later,
Hmm.
right? We're about to shift back into the money part.
Okay.
So, what happened with the money part of things, again, he was struggling quite a bit after getting out of the military, couldn't really hold a job down as he progressed being out of the military. He
Hmm.
like worked here and there, like Home Depot, places like that, right? But as his mental health continued to go downhill, he had a harder time keeping things together.
Hmm.
However, when he was able to hold more of a job, he tried to go to school.
Yeah.
Okay. So he enrolled in computer classes at Lincoln College of Technology just a few months before he had held up Wells Fargo.
So he was trying to do something.
He was trying, like this man
Hmm.
never gave up. That's the thing about like that's like the big theme that I see with him is yes,
Yeah.
obviously he wasn't getting his needs met in the best of ways at the
Yeah.
end, but he really was trying to work hard and figure this out.
Well, and the other thing I'm thinking as you're talking is from a mental health perspective, we just discussed this in an episode, the
Mm-hmm.
criminogenic needs. Mental
Mm-hmm.
health is not one of the top eight, the big eight that are researched and talked about. And it
Mm-hmm.
fires up anybody in the forensic community who knows about criminogenic needs.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health is not a predictor of criminal behavior. It's
No,
actually not.
no,
So the fact that he's in there potentially with full-blown schizophrenia, that's not the reason he went in there asking for the money. It's
nope,
just not,
it's not.
and actually having worked with people with psychosis, they oftentimes are actually very kind and can be very workable as long as you're not acting in a threatening manner towards them.
Yeah. Yep,
Ah,
exactly. I
he was
know.
trying stuff.
I'm actually looking at the criminogenic needs right now. Employment and education, right?
Yeah,
Substance. I don't know if he was a big drinker.
yeah,
Um, Dysfunctional family, right? He doesn't actually have a ton of them. He
yeah,
doesn't really have I mean, his behaviors are antisocial, but it's not because he's antisocial. Does that make sense? So I'm
yeah.
even looking at the criminogenic needs. He was doing this based on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Well, yeah, and this is not someone with antisocial anyway, doesn't have a history of law
No,
breaking.
no, not
So,
that we know of. Yeah.
no.
So, so that's, I like that you made that point. I didn't even think about that.
Hmm.
So he was really trying to figure out his life. He had enrolled in school or enrolled in some classes. He had also purchased his daughter a phone so he could have more contact with her. Get this. He would pray with her via FaceTime every night,
Hmm.
prayed with her, his little daughter, and would help her with her homework over the phone. He bought her a phone literally just to do these things.
Hmm.
What are you thinking? You're a mom. What would you do?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I mean, would you, with every little last dollar you have, would you buy your son a phone so you could pray with him on the phone every
yeah,
night
yeah,
and help him with his homework?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
would.
what he did. I mean, so everything he was doing was always, it was never really for him.
It's always about other people.
Other people, his family. It
Hmm.
was mainly his family. The
Hmm.
dog, getting her a phone so he could talk to her every day, so he could have access to her more consistently. And the mom was all good with this. Like, it wasn't like a weird custody thing.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they had a lot of beef with each other. It just didn't work
Mm-mm.
out,
Mm-mm.
but it sounds like he was a loving father.
Mm-hmm. He was. He was
Mm.
a really good man. So the reason why, going back to the money thing, the reason why the VA held his checks from him was because, and I can't remember the name of the program, but there was a program through the VA that they would pay for his classes, but he had to complete them. Right? So
Right.
if he didn't complete them, if he failed out or whatever, they wouldn't pay for that. So I can't remember if he failed out or if he just like unenrolled but too late.
Okay.
And so the VA wouldn't cover those classes.
So they wouldn't cover the school classes that he wanted to do. Is that why they wouldn't pay him money too?
Yes. Yes. So they would cover them if he completed them.
Got it.
But because he had failed out or unenrolled too late in the program, they
Okay.
would cover it. Okay.
Was the 900 he was trying to get for school, or was that like his disability pay?
That was his disability pay.
Okay. I'm with you.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a double whammy. Like they're not going to pay for school and
Yeah,
um
he was less worried about the school part at this point.
yeah.
But it was more just about his basic needs, right? So he failed to complete them, so the VA would not pay for his classes. So what happened? Well, and the VA, and here's the thing, like this is where things get lost a little in transition. The VA said that they had tried to reach out to him numerous times to get him on a payment plan, or the school, either the school or the VA. It's a little unclear to get
Yeah.
him on a payment plan, but they couldn't get a hold of him. Well, no, duh, because he's transient. He's
And that happens all the time.
yes, he can't live in one place because he can't afford it.
That's also one of the ways people get completely stuck in the system
Yes.
because they're transient, they can't pay their court fees, then
Yeah.
the court can't get a hold of them, then they get arrested, then they,
Yeah.
it's just like this never-ending cycle.
Yep.
Mm.
So obviously they can't get a hold of him. So they basically garnished. I don't think that's what it's called. It's recouped.
Mm.
They recouped his disability to
To
pay
help pay
off.
for the class, basically.
Yep.
Oh,
To
man.
pay off his class debt that he didn't complete.
And he probably didn't know ahead of time that that would happen. Like I could see somebody not understanding that. They might
Yes.
think, oh, they're not going to pay for class. I'm not going to get them. But he's probably not thinking, if
They're
I
gonna
don't
take
do the
that
class,
money.
I don't get my disability pay to
Yes.
pay my,
Yeah.
bill.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Like my guess is they probably disclose that because they have to, but it
Yeah,
probably
or
didn't
in
make a
fine
lot of
print
sense.
in a contract that he signed.
Exactly. It probably didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Something any human could have missed, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
So they recouped his money, and that's why he wasn't getting paid. In the movie, it's interesting because they portray it as a little bit differently. They make it look like the VA actually messed it up
Oh,
and it
interesting.
shouldn't have been taking his money, but I couldn't find any article to back that. I think the articles mainly went based off of interviews with the VA.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Okay.
And they're not going to sit there and, what system is going to sit there and be like, yeah, we screwed that up. And then he held up a bank and it was a whole thing.
Our bad.
No one's going to admit to
No
that.
one's ever going to do that. CYA
No.
to the max.
Yeah. So that's like what happened with the money situation. Okay. So go
Okay.
back to the bank. He's still holding up this bank. Okay.
Okay.
So then they get this negotiator, and his name is Sergeant Andre Bates. Grade A badass.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was expecting to not like this person.
No, we love him.
Okay, good.
So Sergeant and Andre Bates was also a Black man who served in the military, specifically with the Marines.
Okay.
So we already have rapport built,
Absolutely.
right? So they call each other, they're talking, and Sergeant Bates is trying to figure this out with him. Okay. Trying to talk him down, trying to talk with him. And, Brian's getting escalated and calming down, right? Like this is
Yeah.
part of his mental health
It's up and
diagnosis.
down.
Yes. So, Bates is trying to figure this out with him. They went back and forth a little bit with the negotiation. Brian literally goes, I will let one of the hostages go if you can get me a pack of cigarettes.
Okay. Then he'd be down to his last remaining
Mm-hmm.
hostage.
Mm-hmm. And remember, Brian knows he's not going to keep a hostage to
Mm-mm.
kill them at all.
Mm-mm.
Obviously, no one else knows that, but he knows that.
He's like, I need a cigarette.
Yes. So that was what he negotiated. Before he got those, he was killed.
Well, crap.
I know. I know.
I like wish I was there. I would have
I know,
liked our
dude.
chances to
You're actually
intervene.
you're gonna be really pissed about this next part.
Oh no.
And I literally wrote this part actually makes me super mad.
Okay, that's gonna make me mad too then.
So he's killed by a police officer who's trained as a sniper.
He sniped his ass. He wasn't threatening to blow himself up in that
Single
moment.
single gunshot wound to the head.
Okay. Okay.
So this guy, okay, police officer by the name of Dennis Point.
Okay.
I think Point, Ponte. Is that Point?
Oh, Ponte?
Ponte? Okay,
Sure.
Dennis Ponte, whatever. Was hiding in the woods. Okay, get this. Hiding in the woods and let his commanding officer know that he had a clean shot. Okay? He asked if he could take the clean shot. The commanding officer literally said, no, not at this time, as the tactical team was not in position. Okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Also, Dennis heard on the radio, as well as everyone else heard on the radio, that Brian was going to release a hostage for cigarettes.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone heard this news.
Everyone knew he's literally releasing a hostage, which is a sign
Yes.
he's going along with what they're doing. The negotiations are working. The line of communication is open. Oh no.
Yeah. So he made the decision himself to take the shot.
You can't do that.
I know.
I know. I'm no sniper, okay? But even I know you don't do that. You don't go rogue.
No, you don't go rogue. No one was in position. No one
Okay,
was
think
in
about when we
position.
talked about Trump's near assassination, okay?
Yep. Mhm.
And you got SWAT up on the roof, and the dude's on the roof, and they literally couldn't get their shit together. But you don't just take the shot. They didn't just like start
No.
shooting. You know what I mean?
No. Yes. You
Oh,
take the shot if they shoot or do something crazy.
exactly.
But no, he wasn't doing any of that.
That was
He made
also a dumb move because they don't really know what the device was. No one's looked at the device. It could have been a compression device where you let
Jenny.
go of the thing and it blows everybody up.
Jenny.
Okay, I'm just getting mad.
I'm telling you, no, it's okay.
Sometimes I really feel like we should just be in charge of a department because I just don't understand
Dude,
some of this.
I could not agree more.
Oh,
I literally could not agree more. I'm like, what
not
idiot?
that we know everything. Okay, that was a little arrogant, but also that ain't hard. Like this isn't hard to figure out. Okay, this part.
Like, here's the thing. Your commanding officer says no, you don't do the thing.
No,
You dummy.
if you tell me no, I don't do the thing.
Same. Well, most of the time.
When it suits you. When it suits
I'm
you.
like, well, but also.
I will say though, even in our job, which is so not a sniper rifle involvement, right? You know what I'm saying?
It's not, we're not
If
in the
I
police
tell
force.
someone on our team no, and
Yes.
it's an intense situation, then everyone listens.
Absolutely. But
Let alone if you're holding a gun in your hand and you've been literally trained. And to be a sniper, that's not your first day on the job. They don't hand you a sniper rifle day one.
Homeboy is skilled. He's been in this for a minute.
He wanted to shoot him. Oh no. Okay, go for it.
I mean, it doesn't get into if he did or didn't. So, yes.
No, but I'm good and mad.
I know. I told you. I'm sorry. So he took the shot, killed him, and it caught everybody off guard.
Yeah, because they were like,
we just said no, dude.
What just happened?
You done? Yes, like you idiot. there was no um logical justification for him
Mm-mm.
to use deadly force. Like that was the big thing. There was no logical
No,
justification. Brian was not actually hurting anybody,
no.
berating anybody, or especially the hostages.
Well, and he was not threatening to kill the hostages either. He wasn't saying, I need cigarettes or I'm going to blow you to kingdom come. Like
No.
he wasn't threatening anybody.
And he told people he doesn't want to hurt anybody, but he needs his needs met,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
he, even the hostages were like, he was super kind the whole time to us. I mean, they're scared shitless, but he's still super nice. I know. I know.
I'm mad.
What do you think happened to the police officer?
Paid suspension?
Nothing.
Oh, damn it. I was going to be mad if it was a paid suspension.
No, nothing happened to him.
I'm like, did they shoot him? Because he's the only one holding a gun in a threatening manner towards anyone.
Right?
Damn it.
Yeah, no, nothing happened to him. They
Oh,
deemed, yeah. So he's not punished for his actions, and it was deemed to be within the law, even though they were not necessary, even though the actions he took were not necessary. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
has he said anything about that? The sniper?
He wouldn't really talk. No, he didn't make a statement.
I know they're under a lot of stress, but this was not one of those situations. It wasn't like somebody's got a gun to their head and you got to decide. And even then, you don't override what the operation is, like what they're telling you. You don't do that.
No. On his behalf, I believe the department said he was not punished because his actions were within the law.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But not necessary. Duh. Anyway. So guess what?
What?
So they used this robot when Brian was shot. They used this robot to go in and get his bag because no one's going in, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't know if he has a bomb.
Yeah, it's probably school books or something.
So they use this robot to go in
Mm-hmm.
to get the bag,
Mm-hmm.
and then they like put it in some container, and then they obviously like analyze it.
Yeah.
There was no bomb. No
Of course
bomb.
there's no bomb.
No.
I could have told you that. Why did they call us? I said, listen, the dude is literally apologizing for having an attitude with the negotiator in front of two ladies. He's not blowing anything up.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No.
This
And
took a turn because I was thinking he might kill himself. That's what I was thinking, like as a statement. This is so, I mean, both would have been horrific and sad, but this is worse in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you know what sucks, Nat, is we talk to angry men with mental health issues for a living. The
Literally.
dude needed some active listening, a hug, and he
Yeah.
would have walked out in there arm in arm with any of us.
I know.
Truly, all he needed was to talk this out, get
Mhm.
his money, have somebody hand deliver it. Somebody from the DA,
Well,
hand
and
the man a check, say, we're
even
so
if
sorry. This was a miscommunication.
yes,
We're going to figure it out. All good.
exactly. Even if he did owe money, okay,
Sure.
let's say he did. Let's say he was
Come explain
technically
it to him.
explain it to him, and also maybe say, hey, you know what? Let's figure this out. This is your livelihood.
Mm.
So we'll still pay you, but we need to withhold some of it in order to pay this off. Like, y'all, we can backtrack payment plans. I do it with Kaiser all the time.
I'm on a payment plan. Everybody's on a payment plan.
Everyone's on a payment.
Everyone's on a payment plan.
Yes, I pay my bills with Kaiser slowly, as slow as I want to pay them.
Over time, because healthcare in America is atrocious. But
Yes.
there's always a solution. This is the thing. There's always a solution.
Yes.
Most people can be talked down. That's just the
Yes.
truth.
And
Outside of a mass shooter who's on a mission to kill as many as people as possible,
Yes.
outside of that, and this was so far from that, it's not even funny. You can talk almost anybody down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
We've had people with way worse criminal records than this, threatening a lot more than this,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
had a
way
nice
more.
chat and a cry
I
within
know.
10 to 15 minutes. This is
Literally.
wild to me.
We had a meeting Monday that is how that went.
100%.
You know?
I
Come
know.
in super pissed, blazing mad. By the end, they're crying and they're like, I can't wait to feel better. And you're
We
like,
have a plan
cool.
and we're moving forward.
Yes. And that's the thing is we help them come up with a plan.
Mm.
No one was helping Brian come up with a plan.
That hostage negotiator was probably so pissed.
He was big mad.
I mean, I would have to,
Big mad.
I would probably punch the sniper. I'm just being honest.
1000%.
Say, hey, we were both part of this operation. My name is Janine. Bam!
Like,
What the hell are you doing?
you don't do that. I know,
No.
dude, I told you.
Oh,
Big mad. Guess what he had in his bag?
I don't know.
A Bible.
Oh,
Because
no.
remember, he called his daughter every night to pray with her.
Oh,
So he had a Bible, random papers, like miscellaneous papers. This is the only weapon he had. And his brother said he believes he had that to protect himself because he was like basically on and off living, on the streets. He had a machete. No one knew he had a machete in his bag. He never pulled it out. He never threatened anyone with it.
mm.
And then other like random items that had no significance.
Mm.
Again, he never pulled the knife out. And his brother said he didn't have that to harm anybody. He had that for self-protection.
Can you imagine being these hostages and you're talking to this person who's being pretty nice to you, but you're scared, and then all of a sudden they're dead in front of you? Like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
I know. So we've addressed some of the psychology part of this, right? Mental health, the VA system, just systems, right? I don't want to like demonize the VA because I have many friends and people that I love who, have been very lucky to have the VA and to have the services that they have. And it's still another system.
Yeah.
And like a lot of systems like that, my guess is the individuals who work at the VA are potentially overworked. So there's compassion fatigue, there's exhaustion, right? So you get another angry human who's not getting their needs met, right? Your capacity to show them grace and empathy is minimal to none.
Well, and also you got to know a lot of the folks working at the VA are vets, former vets and vets. So, I mean, it's hard on all the levels. Oh, Nat, this is a sad one.
I know.
I'm sad.
I know.
I hope, and I'm sure that his daughter knows how much he loved her.
Well, what's cool is in some of the articles I read, they talked about, they like asked the family if the movie, Breaking, portrayed a good representation of the family. And they were like, yes, like he was a sweet man, loved his daughter, did well by his ex-wife as best as he could. It's not like he abused her.
No.
And so they were all really pleased with how the movie portrayed him and everybody else in his life. You should watch it. You and Gary should watch it.
I will. Is it on Netflix? What is it on?
I can't remember. I'll ask Press. He found it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. And so honestly, Janine, the heart piece for me in all this is to say it really simply, like human beings, you always say this and I love it, have intrinsic value.
Oh, yes. This is what I believe. Yep.
Right? Humans have intrinsic value. Give them a freaking minute.
Oh, yeah.
Give them a minute. Unless you feel like your life is literally at risk. But if someone's just trying to have a conversation about the needs that they have, and your literal job is to talk to them about the needs that they have, and they're frustrated, come see me, Janine and I. We'll help you have those conversations.
Yes.
I'll help you find empathy or
Oh,
compassion for these individuals, because at the end of the day, that goes so far.
Mm.
And we could have avoided all of this if someone would have just had a freaking conversation with him when he went in, instead of trying to backtrack and say, well, we sent you mail. We tried to call.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. His phone is on and off. He's transient. He has no address that he can actually like return to necessarily. Like, and then he comes in and he's wondering what's going on. Tell him then and
100%.
have a conversation and say, you know what? We're going to spend as long as we need to between you, me, and the college and
Yep.
figure out a way to do this so you can still have money and get your basic needs met.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, like, give me a call or DM me, don't call me. DM our Instagram if I'm totally out of line saying that. Like,
No,
I
you're
will
not. You're not out of line. You're not.
but I'll have a conversation with any human who works in that, in the VA system and human resources. Like, let's talk about it. But I don't think
No.
I don't think I'm out of line saying that.
Well, and I know we're not out of line saying 99% of people are workable on some level.
Oh, for sure.
And we can say that with a good deal of certainty because of
Yes.
the population that we serve.
Yes.
You can talk people down, you can have conversations, you can disagree. There's a million different ways that this could have gone, and it's just extraordinarily sad to me, that this is where this landed, because he had inherent intrinsic value as a human being. Mm. And we need to treat people that way, top
No
to
matter
bottom.
what. Yes.
Military, police, mental health, hospitals, healthcare system. Like, I
Yes.
just think our society as a whole, we need to treat people like people and not like objects and problems and dollar signs, But nobody put me in charge, Nat. So, nobody's asking
Same.
my opinion,
Same.
Oh,
Well,
thank you for sharing that case. What a sad story.
I know. I know. My biggest encouragement to all our people is to just give people a minute.
Give people a minute. There you go. There's our marching orders this week. Give people a freaking minute, because
Give them
people
a minute.
matter.
Yes. I love this case. I love doing the research on this case. For our listeners, go watch the movie. It is called Breaking. I don't know who it's by, but just Google it. And watch it. It's a really good movie. And like I said, the family was really pleased with how well it portrayed everything. And so, I don't think you'll be disappointed. So, but thank you, Janine, for listening.
Oh, yeah. Thanks to all of our listeners. And as always,
bye, forensic friends.
I'm Janine.
And I'm Nat.
And as always, thanks for listening, and join us next week for more crime, psychology, and heart.